So what was my defining moment? I was a decorated CIA officer. The CIA was my life. I had awards, medals. I traveled overseas. I did a lot of things, you know, that sometimes some guys dream about. I mean, I loved the agency. Until the higher I got up in the ranks, the more I started seeing how corrupt this beast was. And then you have a decision to make. Why would the CIA cover up the assassination vulnerability of its agents overseas? Why would the CIA not want to protect their agents in foreign countries from being killed? Why would they cover that up? Why would they threaten me and destroy the documents and then target me later on this base and my family is exposed to poisons? Why? The people are still asking that today. Why would they do that? Unless maybe there's some people out there that if they want to take out a CIA officer or a chief of station that they don't like, well, there's a way that they can do that, perhaps. It's the only theory that I've heard that is a possibility, but they did that. I was threatened. Documents that I wrote, I had a 15-page investigation, all detailed, right down to the IP address level, right down to every way you could get in and identify our agents and their assets, if you can imagine. All the documents were destroyed. So I had a decision to make. And just personally, after a lot of thought, a lot of prayer, I decided I could not let my fellow officers' safety be at such extensive risk out there. I mean, how can you do that? So by simple providence, I came across a senior official outside the CIA who found out about my investigation. I got a call on the secure line one day. Kevin, this is Jim so-and-so. I read your investigation. I want you over at Main State, 7th floor immediately. I'm like, sure, okay. So I went over there and he said, we read your stuff and we think you're onto something here. Do not tell your bosses or the CIA anything about this. We're going to go out and we're going to do a global investigation. Take a few months. You'll probably get a call from us in a few months. You just lay low. So I went outside the CIA to a senior decorated government official, God and Patriot type, one of the good types, awesome guy. 3 months later, I get a call on the secure line. And the funny part is I just talked to a good friend of mine on the secure line. And we were talking. He goes, listen, I got to go. Someone's coming in my office. I said, okay, so I'll call you back in 5 minutes. So I hung up the phone. 5 minutes later, the phone rings. And I think it's my friend. So I pick it up and I said, Pizza Hut. And it was Jim C. He's like, Kevin, this is Jim C. over at Main State. I was like, another Homer Simpson. Sorry, sir, I thought you were my buddy. But anyway, he goes, come over here immediately. So I went over and they sat me down and they pulled out their investigation. They said it's worse than even you thought. The foreign nationals, foreign intelligence officers, assassins, whatever, can go into just about any embassy in the world, identify our covert agents, and once they identify them, then they're basically theirs. Huge, massive vulnerability that your agency covered up. We're going to have a meeting in 3 days. The agency has ordered to be there. Will you come also? Well, yes, sir, of course. So I went to this big meeting, a big conference room, top level of state, 3 senior state officers, the CIA officer in charge of the cover-up sitting at one end, 2 of the state guys at the other end, Jim so-and-so here, and me across the table. Department of State officially proceeds to officially rebuke the CIA for putting the lives of its agents at risk overseas for over 10 years. Told them they should be ashamed of themselves, and they were going to publish these findings and what the CIA did to the entire intelligence community, which they did. So the entire intelligence community knew what the CIA did. Me, I got a laser dot. You know, this is my boss sitting at the end of the table, who wound up becoming the chief of the base where we were poisoned. What a coincidence. That's how that played out. It was a serious vulnerability. He was placed in charge. I had a laser dot on my back. Even an FBI agent I was working with on this base, good one too, we were doing an investigation. She took me aside, said, close the door. I said, yeah. She goes, you're being set up. And I said, you think so? She goes, oh yeah, no, you're being set up by your own agency. I just, you know, just being nice to me, just what she'd seen. And I was. So even the FBI was seeing it. So what was my defining moment? My family was seriously ill from toxic exposure. The house is infested with this black mold. We found a mustard gas shell percolating up out of the yard. They had broken into the house and painted a chemical on the ceiling. It was like 3 days of the condor. It was just, there was a toxin in there that was a neurotoxin that was deadly. I documented evidence, doctor's diagnosis. I took my own secret samples of the house, got them processed from an outside entity. I got a full report from that entity saying the house was contaminated. The CIA took control of that document and blacked it out. And The guy that produced that document, I think it was 6 months later, was shot in the head. Coincidence? The cops never solved the case, and they said it was probably unrelated, was the quote. So who knows? Who knows? House was broken into. They painted a chemical on the ceiling. We were bugged. We were followed. The security guards, who become friends of mine, gave me affidavits that they were ordered to destroy any information on the house. They were ordered to destroy the records of the break into the house, and everything else they were ordered to destroy by the heads of the base. And they were good folks. They signed those affidavits for our court case. That's one of the ways we got them all the way to court. Then they came to me and they said, you know that settlement that we made with you? We're not going to abide by it. Matter of fact, we're going to give you a fraction of that. And if you don't take that, we're going to invoke the state secrets privilege, and we're going to shut down all the information of the case and evidence of your family being poisoned. And no one will ever see it again. We got you. What they said. Like the FBI agent told me the last conversation we had, she said, well, I guess they messed with the wrong man this time. Because I said, oh, no, you don't. No, you don't. I'll take this. I'm taking this all the way. You know, you want to lock me up? I mean, my sweetheart wife back there experienced this. Go ahead. And for a couple of months, I stood there just waiting for them to come. Because I had written a book called From the Company of Shadows, and I put a code in there that exposed that the family was poisoned and it was covered up by the state secrets privilege illegally. Gross violation of law and the Constitution. Congressman Frank Wolf, tremendous guy, tried to get evidence of our case 7 times, and the agency just blew him off and said, sorry, you got no access to this. You have got no right to even ever access this. Sorry, it never saw it. A good man, he really tried. So I witnessed at several levels the CIA's unbridled use of secrecy. I mean, you know, I was a decorated officer. I was a loyalist, and I started, every time I thought they wouldn't do something, they did it. Every time I thought they wouldn't abuse this privilege any further, they did, to a gross extent, to the extent that our agents' lives were at risk in the field. And with impunity, they were doing this. So I made the decision to fight. And I have to tell you, just me personally, I believe in a higher authority. And that's kind of what empowered me to stand. I'm answerable to a high authority and where my faith is, and I'm not afraid of the CIA. I'm not, you know, my soul is not in their hands. Let's put it that way. And that's what enabled me to have the strength and the courage to stand up, and that's why I did. And for the sake of my family, I couldn't let them do that. Just couldn't do it. I had to keep going. So I wrote a book, and they blacked the whole. It's amazing. They let me publish things. They put me right next to an assassin in the field, a well-known international assassin. They put me right next to him, and then left me hanging out in the open without even putting me under any sort of protection. Maybe hoping the guy would take me. I don't know. But we went to dinner a lot, and the guy started liking me. I actually got this in the book, and we started becoming friends. So I sent some stuff back to headquarters saying, hey, so-and-so's like, you know, he's here. I'm standing there teaching how to shoot firearms, except for the fact that the guy was so good. I was like, my gosh, you just hit a bottle at 80 yards with a Glock. Who are you? But apparently the guy liked me, so he didn't kill me. And headquarters came back and said, that's an international assassin. What are you doing next to him? I said, you put me next to him, you morons. So you just drop it anyway. Things like that begin to happen. But that I got in the book. The vulnerability to our agents and the ability to find out their identities, I got in the book from the Company of Shadows, but they blacked out the fact that my family was poisoned. Simple doctor's diagnosis and environmental studies, blacked out. It's a violation of Executive Order 1233, I think it is. Reagan issued it, where the CIA cannot black out information if it's simply embarrassing to the agency or reveals illegal activity. They did it with impunity. Think they're going to get away with it. I don't think they did. So I came out in public, and now this is why I do what I do. And since I have people coming up to me now, whistleblowers. I'm friends with William Binney, John Kiriakou, who they put in prison for 2 years for making a mistake, Kirk Wiebe, whose house was raided by the FBI for the NSA Domestic Surveillance Program. There are heroes out there that believe in the Constitution above their own personal safety, and more are coming. God willing, we'll get even more than that.